When most think of knife throwing, they think of the classic rotational style of throwing. The problem with this style of throwing is it is very limited because one rotation has one set distance. A rotation is how many times a knife rotates before hitting the target. Instinctive knife throwing is being able to throw a knife from any distance with very little thought and stick it almost every time. Instinctive throwing is also being able to control the knife by using different grips and techniques to slow down and speed up the rotation. With instinctive throwing, you can throw multiple knives from multiple different distances, and the knives will do the same amount of rotations. You can control rotation so much you can eliminate the rotation. That technique is called no spin. Instinctive throwing is way more versatile than the other style, but is way more difficult to learn and takes a lot more practice. In the future, I'm going to upload tutorials on different styles and techniques of knife throwing. There are many different variations and styles of knife throwing, but the two most basic styles of knife throwing are rotational and no-spin throwing. All the other styles of knife throwing are just different variations of rotational and no-spin throwing. So if you learn the basics of both of those styles, you can learn all of the other styles of knife throwing pretty quickly. And you will be able to throw any knife from any distance and stick it almost every time. Not only will you be able to throw any knife, but you will be able to throw anything with a point or sharp edge and hit point first or edge first almost every time. Subscribe for more knife and gaming content. When people get into knife throwing, the first mistake they make is the knives they buy. So I'm going to tell you what to avoid when picking your throwing knives. Don't buy zombie, apocalypse, or any gimmick knives. Those are junk. If they come with a dartboard, don't buy those either. Don't get light, thin, or small knives. Those are dangerous to the user because they are more likely to bounce back at you and they are harder to control. If you have any questions about knife throwing, ask them in the comments. I made a video on what throwing knives to avoid. Now I'm going to tell you what to look for in a good throwing knife. I can't give you a specific throwing knife to use because there are many different styles and techniques, and different knives work better for different techniques. But I can give a general idea of what to look for. 1. You want a knife with a good weight to it because light knives are harder to control and they are more likely to bounce back at you when you miss. 2. For length, the shortest I would go is 8 inches and the longest I would go is 14 inches. The length of the knife you use will depend on the style and technique you're using. For example, with the style and techniques I throw, I use knives between 9 and 12 inches. I hope this helps. If you have any questions about knife throwing, ask them in the comments. Hollywood movies and TV shows would have you believe that the kunai is some great throwing knife, but it is not. In fact, the kunai is a multipurpose utility tool for gardening and masonry work. At certain points in history, kunai were used as improvised weapons, but were not thrown. Kunai throwing knives are marketed towards people who don't know any better. You can throw kunai, you can throw anything with a point, but kunai are not meant to be thrown. The main problem with the kunai in media and the kunai throwing knives you see is that the ring on the handle is too big and the transition from the handle to the ring is too aggressive, which makes it awkward to throw by the handle. It causes you to have to adjust your grip and release. There are some good kunai knives out there, but they are fighting knives, not meant to be thrown.